Hi. Unfortunately, computers don't work, and there won't be slides here, so I'll be talking. So I'll just go. So I will talk about where or when you should not use Ruby. And he just introduced me, so I'll skip that and just tell you that I'm trolling a little, because I'm not telling you to not use Ruby. I will just tell you examples of features or elements of a system where you can think about using other techniques than Ruby if you are a Ruby developer. So it will be a talk about using the right tool for the right job. Well, I had a very nice picture of a very old computer, and the computer is not a Macintosh, but it's a digital VT100 virtual terminal that was released in 1978. Who was walking on this planet in 1978? Oh, yeah, there are some people. Cool. So this VT100, I can show you. It looks like this. The beautiful brown computer. And this terminal is a base for the terminal emulators we use currently. We use iTurn2, GNOME Terminal, and other terminal emulators, and they all run on the same base, implementing the RFCs that were created 30 years ago and interpreting ANSI escape sequences to handle cursor movement or coloring of the text. And why am I talking about this? Because we as developers use Git, Rake, Vim daily. We use Rails generate commands. Everything happens in the terminal. So also sometimes we watch screencasts. Screencasts are the learning materials that we sometimes go to see how some people do things, to learn about new framework and new technology. And what's weird about the way people do screencasts is that they record a video of a terminal. Why? That's just a text. Why should you use some video codecs and lots of megabytes to just show animated text inside a black box? That's a weird thing to do. So I was trying to look at existing solutions, how to avoid recording a video, but to record your terminal session. And what I found was the old school Unix command called script, which all of you have on your machines. And this command creates something called TypeScript. It's a set of two files. One file records all output that is printed to the terminal, and the second file contains timing information, so how many characters were printed after how much time, what's the delay in seconds. And this you can try it if you have Linux. I'll tell you about OS X in a minute. So there's a second script, second binary called script replay that can get these two files and it replays it in your terminal. So it looks cool, and if you have the same terminal size when you're replaying, everything looks fine. And I thought that maybe there's a way to share this, to use the tool, but to share when you record it, to share it with other people. so you can tell them how to use something cool in Vim, for example. And I put a list of goals, and I wanted the tool to have these two requirements met. One was simplest possible recording in the terminal, so just one command. You're recording, finishing. If you want to finish, just type exit, enter, like you're finishing your bash session. And the simplest possible replay in the browser was the second thing to have in this tool. So out of this idea, ASCII.io was born. This is the name, like ASCII.io. And I will tell you about 4 elements of this project. The project it consists of four elements. Terminal recorder, this one. Second is a site with an API. Third is in-browser player that replays what you recorded in the terminal. And the fourth element is a background processor that generates thumbnails of the recording, so you can so it can be displayed in the site when you are browsing. You can just look. Oh, here is a nice ASCII art. Oh, I want to watch this. And from all of these elements, only one is fully implemented in Ruby. And this is the site with API. And I will tell you about all these elements in detail and tell you what I use instead of Ruby. While being mainly Ruby developer, I choose a different technology. So the recorder, I thought it's covered. I can use the script command, and then I can use these 2 files and replay them somehow in the browser. But well, on Linux that's okay. But on OS X there's also a script command, but it comes from some BSD flavor of Unix, and it doesn't save the timing information, so it's basically useless. It just records the text that is printed to the terminal. So it's like just a dump of the text. So I did a little bit of yak shaving, and I implemented such a recorder because I wanted it to also I wanted to cover also OS X. So I looked at script.c, the source code of this Unix script command, and it was over 400 lines of code, of C code, quite straightforward. And what the code was doing was it was creating a pseudo terminal. Pseudo terminal is a Unix feature that allows you to spawn a process, a child process, and connect to its input and output streams, so you can act as a proxy. So this is basically what Screen or Tmax are doing. They spawn when you start a new Tmax session, you are in your bash shell, but this bash is inside of is a child process of a Tmax that is itself running inside the original bash that was spawned by your terminal emulator. I have a nice ASCII art here, but you won't see it, unfortunately. So the requirements for the recorder was that it works on Linux and OS X, has minimum dependencies. I wanted it to be to not depend on too many things, because in time you need to think about that dependencies change, and you need to constantly update it. So minimizing dependencies was one of the goals, and the simplest possible installation. If I have not much dependencies, then also the installation can be much easier. And I wanted to target the tool not only at Rubyists, because there are lots of Python users, Python developers, or other nerds that use terminal daily, like admins, for example, and they don't need. Probably they don't always have Ruby installed like half of this room has. So first I thought that, well, I'll try to write this one in the Ruby, and the pro was that I'm most proficient in Ruby, and that would be the quickest way to implement that. And also Ruby has a PTY module in standard library, and PTY module stands for pseudo terminal that handles all of these connections between child process and the current process, and handles everything. So that was cool. But the downside was that it was Ruby. That having script in Ruby requires Ruby on each of yours machine, and I don't want to force someone to install Ruby if they don't want to, if they even don't know what Ruby is, but they would like to record the terminal. And the other thing was that Ruby changes a lot, and the PTY module in Ruby changed from between 1.8 and 1.9. The module changed and the API changed, so it would also require me to do some if statements and use the proper API. That wasn't a big deal, but the previous argument against Ruby was much more strong. So I was thinking about using some language or anything that is already pre-installed on almost all the computers. What is it? Do you know what's the, let's say, language that all of these machines here have? Perl. What else? Bash, yes. Well, you don't always have a GCC, for example. I didn't want the user to compile stuff, and I also didn't want to deal with package managers and building deb package for Ubuntu, RPM. I tried with once with building deb package, and it was hell. So now there's also Python. OS X and Linux comes bundled with Python. I think it's since like 5 years ago, all of the most Linux distributions and also OS X has Python included. So that was the choice. And also Python has a PTY module to handle all these low-level things. And I looked at the PTY module source and actually at a repository, Python source code repository, and it looked like the PTY module didn't change in like over 10 years. So I think we can say that it will not change in next years, probably never. This is a technology that was created 30 years ago, and it doesn't change. So the Python was the choice, and I ended up with a script of also about 400 lines of code. It's like the C version, but this one also does additional things, except additionally to recording standard output and timing information. It saves environment information like terminal type, shell name, dimensions of a terminal window, and other things like that, operating system, and it uploads it via API to the website. So a quote from me: it was just safer to use Python here. I was tempted to use Ruby, but Python won here. So +1 for Python. So terminal recording covered. The site just needs to have an API, a list of recordings, and optional way to create your profile, so you can assign all your recordings to your profile. That's not required. And here, use Ruby. If you are familiar with Ruby and Rails, then just use it. That's not much to add here. Third element, the player. So, well, let's write the player in Ruby, but this needs to run in the browser. So there are some techniques to run the Ruby in browser, namely NACL, native client in Chrome, or JRuby in a Java applet, and other hacks. But that's also not. I can't depend on these requirements because they are not always there. People block plugins in their browser, like me, for example. So that was not good. Java applet alone, writing this in Java. Probably there is already dozens of terminal emulators in Java, and I could use something that interprets the ASCII escape sequences and just get it for free. But I didn't want to use Java as like I said. And Flash, I have a quote. That Steve guy famously said it's proprietary and closed too. So, I think nobody on this in this room need more clarification about Flash. So, of course, JavaScript. Like on yesterday's talks, presenters said that the V8 and other JavaScript engines currently are state-of-the-art and very fast. So yeah, JavaScript. Technically, the player was written in CoffeeScript, but that compiles down to JavaScript. So it's the player is HTML5-based VT100 implementation, and it has multiple renderers. It renders. It can render using a pre-element. So you can just pose it and copy and paste the code from the ASCII cast to your terminal and run the same command. Also, there's the other backend canvas-based, which is a little faster, but it doesn't allow you to copy and paste. The first one is the default one, and it's tested with Jasmine.js. Thanks to HTML5. Also, like James Williams said yesterday, the request animation frame is a blessing for developers writing highly dynamic content in the browser. When you animate, you have to use a request animation frame, and also it uses web workers to do some processing in the separate thread. So the player will soon be extracted from ASCII.io, so we can use it on your own site if you want. And the last thing, thumbnails. Well, I wanted thumbnails to be just a text, black text on white background, so it matches nicely with the site design. I didn't want to put the color there. So how to get the text out of such a recording? Well, I was thinking first, when I'm doing thumbnailing for like video uploads, what do I use? FFmpeg, for example. Well, but here I can't use it. It's not a video file, and I can't play it and tell FFmpeg to get a 100th frame from it. So I was thinking about using XVFB, X virtual frame buffer, and Xterm inside it, and inside the Xterm running script replay. So the background job could run all of these. And then I could somehow get the snapshot. But script replay doesn't do snapshots. So I'm run out of time. So eventually I tried, something told me to check manual for Tmax. If you don't know what Tmax is, it's a terminal multiplexer, and it has a nice feature like capture pane and save buffer. Capture pane saves what's on the screen to the buffer, and then you can save a buffer to a file. So I just use Tmax for this one. And then in the background job, I was invoking a single shell script in Bash that was running several sequence of commands, mainly tmax commands, to get this thumbnail for me on the text. I'm run out of time, so just questions. Thank you. I will put my slides somewhere online so you can see what I was talking about. So any questions? Yes?
Haven't you thought about later recorded terminal sessions in your own terminal so you can transfer these recording sessions to another machine and play it back there?
So you're asking if I can record the session locally, transfer it to other machine and play it back there. Well, this is what you can... actually, the ASCII-IO recorder doesn't do this. It just uploads it to the website. But that was the main goal, to share on the web. So if you want to do something like you described, you can use, if you are using Linux on both sides, you can use script and script replay commands and transfer these two files, via email or something, and do this. But it will be very easy also to add this functionality to the recorder. Oh, and the project is on GitHub. Somewhere on the GitHub. Oh, yeah. And the recorder, this is the source of the website and API, and the recorder is like this, -CLI. Okay. Any more questions? Okay. Thank you.